Good morning, Spartans. Happy Thursday, Wednesday, June 2nd. As you can see, and as I told you multiple times this week, I am out of the building today and tomorrow. There will not be a video for tomorrow. There will not be a video lecture or directions for tomorrow. So this will serve as the video directions for today and tomorrow. A couple of things that you are working on, and Mr. Veith already knows what you guys are working on. You have notes to complete a video lecture, this video to finish watching. You'll complete the notes on German pre-war aggression, all right, and how that very much relates to what's going on between the Russians and the Ukrainians at the present time. You have a video to watch titled Apocalypse, the Second World War. And the episode that you are watching is titled Aggression. That is linked both in the document as well as in the assignment itself on Schoology. That is a 45-minute video ballpark. When you will not finish that today, you'll finish that tomorrow in class. And then Friday, the end of the week, you are working on finishing up the chapter 30 reading guide, which is due in its entirety on Monday, June 6th, when we come back. June 6th will be our last regular scheduled day. We'll wrap up the unit, and then you guys will have whatever time for missing work or getting ready for your test. So you got the notes, which I'm about to go through with you right now. You have a video guide and video to start today, finish tomorrow. And then you have a reading guide, your last video guide to finish before Monday. Again, if you find yourself with extra time, make sure you have your missing assignments turned in. Remember, I will take reading guides past their due dates for any of those who are in what we would say academic trouble. So with that, let's get moving here. Grab your reading guide or grab your notes, whatever it is that you're keeping this information on. It is more of the same that we have been talking about. The Japanese have been expanding. The Italians have been expanding. The Germans are going to expand. The Germans are going to expand for different reasons than the Japanese or the Italians. The Italians are expanding because they want to rebuild the Roman Empire. The Japanese are expanding because they have economic needs to be filled because they're the only industrialized power in Asia. The Germans are going to expand. One, yes, I'm sure they want to expand their empire. They want to rebuild their economic prowess. But they're going to use different reasons for their expansion beyond economic arguments. Remember, these are the people that caused or were blamed for causing World War I. So they got to play a little bit of a different tune than the others. They're gonna use arguments such as for their expansion into the Rhineland or into Austria or into the Sudetenland, that they are worried. They want to protect German-speaking people. They want to reconnect with those that have a shared history with them, a shared ancestral history with them, or a unique ethnic background with them. Sure, there is no question that they want to rebuild their economic power, but they're going to make these arguments. Hitler is going to make these arguments that they are trying to unite the Germanic people so they can be protected, so they can no longer be singled out and persecuted while being separate from the rest of the German people. And again, we come into this situation, we come into this problem of, do we get involved or do we not get involved? Does the United States get involved? Do the British get involved? Do the French get involved? And obviously they chose to minimally become involved. They let Hitler expand, and when he goes into the Sudetenland, there's some reprimand, there's some admonishment, but they don't really get involved. And then he goes into Austria, and then they get a little bit nervous. And then he starts talking about going into the Sudetenland. And again, the Sudetenland is this narrow strip of Czechoslovakia. And that's when the Allies start to become that's when what would become the Allies become a little bit worried. We're always faced with this problem. We talked about this yesterday. Does the United States take up the issue? What issues do we pass on? What issues do we get involved in? Yesterday, we talked about the Vietnam syndrome and nation building. I mean, there has to be a limitation of what we get involved in. But all of these circumstances, all of these issues require some sort of attention, because we never really know what people are going to do. We do know that things repeat themselves, right? The next slide, I'm going to talk about how Vladimir Putin is doing the exact same thing that Hitler did, with the exact same outcome already laid before us. We weigh these options. Does it benefit our economy? Does it hurt our economy? Are we going to have a bigger problem later? Are more people, more aggressive people, more dangerous people going to do the same thing and cause a bigger problem? And just like yesterday, if countries don't step in, people who are aggressive are going to continue to be aggressive. Hitler, said that he needed to reunite the Germans, and he needed living space for living space for his people. They willingly went along with this. They were so worried about going to war and having another conflict that they accepted it. They made a deal. You can take this, but no more. You can take the Sudetenland and no more. And then what we got 6 months later, 6 months after Neville Chamberlain from the United Kingdom says, this is peace. This is peace now. This is peace in our time. Hitler goes and expands into the rest of Czechoslovakia. Winston Churchill is saying that Neville Chamberlain had the choice between war and dishonor. Then Churchill went on to say that he's going to have dishonor, but now he's going to have war, because he knew Hitler was going to continue to expand. And that's why sometimes we have to get involved in these issues. Do we stop aggression or do we let it go? Hitler expands into the rest of Czechoslovakia, and then we go back to his little comrade, Benito Mussolini, who then expands across the Adriatic Sea into Albania. And then we slowly see these people start to add territory. Then September 1st, 1939, the war ensues. Hitler begins rolling through Poland from the west. Stalin does the exact same thing, rolling in from the east. We slowly see these guys start to expand in territory. How this affects us today and how this relates to today is what's going on with the Ukrainians. There is this guy who is rumored to believe, and this guy's his name is Alexander Dugin, and he's a touch on the crazy side. Very similar to Rasputin and the Romanovs in the beginning of the end of the 19th century. But there's this guy, Alexander Dugin. He wrote the book 25 years ago, 1997. That is, and 25 years ago, wrote the book, The Foundations of Geopolitics. Okay, the geopolitical future of Russia. And what this guy does is basically lays out what the Russians need to do to replace themselves or to reassert themselves as a world power. I mean, in the 1800s, they're a world power, and then they kind of fall on hard times for the next century. They have some flashes of promise, but they don't really pull it together. And he basically lays out this theory that is exactly what has happened several times throughout the course of history. There are seafaring, ocean-based empires, the British, and there are land-based empires. Rome, the Roman Empire, the Holy Roman Empire, the German Empire, right? All the first three Reichs of Germany. He said that there's two different groups of people: the seafaring people, the colonizers, the oceanic people, the explorers. They will never get along with the land-based continental empire people or the descendants thereof. There'll be the ocean people, there'll be the continental people. In his world, there'll be the Atlanticism, those that follow Atlanticism, and those that follow Eurasianism. Now, being that the United States has a very, quote unquote, unique relationship with the British, all right, we are the Atlanticism people. The United Kingdom, the United States, we are our own culture, our own empire of people. Well, then as you can see here, there are different, oops, slide too far. There are two different groups. Okay. There are two different groups that make up the Eurasian people. You have those who are of Russian descent, of Russian ancestry, and those who are of Germanic ancestry. Okay, 25 years ago, this Alexander Dugin rolls out this plan that for Russia to reassert itself, it has to rid Europe of the Atlanticism descendants, the British and the United States. And he lays out how to do it. He basically proposes that you drive them into isolation. You drive them into isolating themselves from international affairs, which is what we have been discussing in class this week. Why does the United States get themselves involved in these issues? We have nothing to do with it. Okay, there are plenty of people in this country that would argue that we should have nothing to do with these. These are not our issues. We know why we get involved. I've already explained that to you. But he argues that you could isolate the United States by bringing people back into that conversation of asking why we get involved in these issues. And those conversations come up through a series of things that you have witnessed in your lifetime. The United States has had social class issues between the wealthy and the poor. The United States has had racial issues between white and people of color. The United States has had religious issues between, case in point, those who are pro-choice and those who are pro-life. And the United States has had a huge issue regarding disinformation, fake news, what's accurate, what's not. All of these things, both in the United States and in England, have caused disunity. They have caused division. They have caused us to question literally everything that we have done. We do it in class. Why do we get involved in these concepts? Or why do we get involved in these conflicts? And once that was done, once division was caused, then the next thing that he proposed and he laid out was to unite the continental people based on resources, based on energy. You know that I'm talking about oil. The Russians have a significant amount of petroleum, and continental Europe is dependent upon it. Drive all the people who are seafaring and unite the continental people. But he's also realistic that there is some division amongst the people that live in the actual Eurasian continent. So one of the things that he proposes, and that's how this is, I know it's a theory, but it is potential that could happen. There are several groups of, that is not what I want. There are several groups of people that live in this region right here in the continental Eurasian region. There are several different groups. But what he's arguing is because Western Europe, Germany, France, Spain is dependent on Russia's energy resources, you could actually have what we would call an axis. You could have I'm going to blow this up so we can see it better. Slideshow. Yep, and I'm going to clear. What he's proposing, okay, because this region right here is dependent on Russia proper for energy, you could have one little access, one little control center, or one little state here, one state here, okay, one state here, and they're all controlled by this group right here because they're the ones that have the energy. You could divvy it up. You could have a China-based region. You could have your Western European region. Obviously you have a Eurasian region. But what he's arguing is that the seafaring people are their own group. They do not have a connection with the rest. Okay. This is exactly what the Russians have been following. Okay. Now, whether or not Putin has followed the guidance of Alexander Dugin, no one knows the answer to that. Right? This guy's messed up 6 ways towards the weekend in the head. But it certainly sounds what this is what he's doing, and it certainly sounds the plan that he is following is one that we've seen happen in numerous times. Right? It's the same plan that Hitler followed. If you didn't think Hitler planted disinformation or propaganda in the United States, you're nuts. But he's got division on his biggest adversaries. He's got a region dependent on his resources. They will need it. And then he's using the same reasons to go into these territories. Cultural background, ethnic background. We need this space for our population. There are ancestrally connected cousins, right? We need to be protected from the hostilities of the, it's all the exact same arguments that Hitler has made. And then we go back to, oops, got to share my screen one more time. Then we go back to, that's not what I wanted to share. And share screen, this one. Thank you. Still not the right one. Where did that go? Here it is. Thank you. There we go. We go back to the issue. Do we get involved? Why do we get involved? We're slightly concerned that we've seen this pattern before, right? I mean, this is the World War II pattern. Do we let it happen? Or do we stop it? Is this going to continue to occur? Or do we stop it? Are the Chinese going to do it? Are they going to follow suit? They've already had tendencies to expand into territories that don't belong to them. Think about Tibet. Vladimir Putin has also set up allies, just like Hitler did. 1939, before they go into Poland, Hitler signed a peace deal with the Soviets, right? They're going to go halvesies on Poland. It's the exact same thing that Vladimir Putin has done. He's done the same thing with Belarus, right? He's working with China. All of these things, all of these past experiences from World War II, World War I, the Depression, all of these things factor into our decision making. Why do we get involved in problems that really have nothing directly related to us? Well, here's why. We've seen these things happen before. And typically in our past, when we don't do anything but appease aggression, then aggression, unchecked aggression begets more aggression. And that's concerning. That's very concerning to us. That is what I had for you guys today. If there was a slide that I went through quickly that before you could get it written down, obviously you can go back, rewind, and get it written down, or you can just access the notes that are in that are posted in Schoology. 2 things left for you to do this week now that you've completed the notes. One, you've got the video to watch on World War II, the apocalypse. The episode is aggression. That link is again posted in the actual assignment itself. And I'm just going to go ahead and publish this right now so I don't forget tomorrow. The video link is posted in the actual assignment right here. It is also listed in the actual video guide, so you should have it in multiple ways. And then when you are done with the video guide, which will undoubtedly take you into Friday, you have the next section, the last section of your last reading guide to read questions 31 through 37. That is the U.S. enters the war, and it's the end of the war. We'll look at post-World War II world, why things happen. And again, we'll look at it from how does it impact us today stance. So that is all I have. You have a great rest of the day. Make sure you are listening to Mr. Vyeth and be respectful. Get the video guide and reading guides done. And you guys have yourself a great weekend. Until I see you on Monday, go Spartans.